He's Coach Pitino, Louisville head coach. Did you recruit LeBron at all?
I tried to get in there, and then I watched him play and realized that college was not in his realm.
When's the last time you had that look or that feeling when you saw a player in high school where you went, you know what, he's not long for college or he's going right to the pros?
You know, it's funny because I had 5 players when I was at Kentucky that we got commitments from, and they went to the pros. I was very shocked that Sebastian Telfair did not go to college and chose the pros instead. He was the first point guard to do that. But Kobe and LeBron stuck out. Garnett, those 3 I knew it was a waste of time. Nobody recently I see in that Kobe LeBron type situation.
Has somebody ever told you that they're going to be one and done when you recruit them, that I'm going, coach, but I'm only going to be there for a year?
A young man, Trey Lyles, who came down to Kentucky and said to me he wants to stay in college 1 year, and how did I feel about that? I said, you shouldn't make that decision, and I certainly couldn't make that decision. You should let the pros make that decision. And I said, going into it, you don't want to get disappointed, and certainly have a great freshman year and let the pros tell you if you're ready.
I had a couple of suggestions for college basketball, and look, I know the kids athletically are, brilliant, but the game is not good. You got teams scoring in the 50s now. The defense isn't that good, Coach. What about, can we take the shot clock down to maybe 24 seconds?
We can definitely take it down to 30. I don't think you'll see it 24 now. Scoring is up a little. Because, I went through this, Dan, at the NBA 20-some-odd years ago when David Stern called a bunch of coaches and GMs, U.B. Brown, Larry Brown, myself, Pat Riley, a bunch of people, because only one team was scoring better than 100 points a game. And he said something has to be done. And we just pulled all our ideas together, and then in the end, ultimately, it was the referees that got scoring up. They started calling more fouls. The clock stopped. They then today you see so many teams over 100. Going back 30-some-odd years ago when I was the Knicks coach, we averaged 116.8 points per game. Only one team in the league wasn't scoring 100, and we were third. We were behind Golden State and Denver. So the referees are the ones, when they call more fouls, they allow more movement, they stop all the chucking of screens and allow total freedom of movement. They're the ones that will get scoring up in college basketball. You're right. It's not the defense. It's more the referees.
Well, I'm also looking at the players, and these kids are AAU players who come in, and they're talented, but there's a self-entitlement there when they come in. I just don't know. And I watched Kentucky play a couple of times, and not to pick on Kentucky, but it just doesn't seem like there's any continuity, any flow to the game. And I don't know if it's because of AAU basketball, but you're trying to coach these kids. How difficult is it when you get them to try to make them a finished product?
Well, that's why you look at Doug McDermott and you see how good a college player he is and how many points he scores, because he's had great continuity, great coaching, great system. And when you get AAU basketball players, certainly you have to take them and put them in a system that's best suited for them, and it takes a little bit of an adjustment. And, certainly there are some I have Russ Smith, who really never had a major college scholarship coming out of high school, and he's been an All-American for me and took us to 2 Final Fours and a national championship, and he averages 18 points a game. So there's the flip side of young men that move on and get better each year and certainly develop. He's
Louisville head coach Rick Pitino joining us on the show. I fought to change the BCS. Now my mission is to change the one and done. And I do think there'll be movement with the new NBA commissioner. But what would be your suggestion on how to make college basketball and pro basketball better at the same time?
Well, really the pros would love to see another year of college. But it's the players' union, the agents, that always stop the NBA from doing anything about it, because they want to get the kids in their second contract quicker because it's more money for them. What I don't understand is, in the flip side, they're representing so many veterans that are being pushed out who have large contracts because of these young players. So it would be in the best interest of the NBA as well as the young people to give them another year of college because they're not ready emotionally. Forget physically and mentally. They're not ready emotionally for the NBA. Most players aren't. I would say 90% of them.
But also, I don't know if the D League is maybe the solution there, but if you want to go from high school, because you got kids you probably had down through the years who didn't go to school, didn't care about going to school, but you said, all right, stay eligible. They wanted to go to the pros. They were majoring in the NBA. So what do you do with those kids who make a mockery of college?
Well, I agree with that because, let's face it, when you're one and done, you're really 6 months and done.
Yeah.
The second semester, you're taking online courses. You're not really concentrating on academics. You're concentrating on getting an agent, and really you're out of there. And so it's really not even one and done. It's 6, 7 months and done. So and as much as John Calipari has made a living out of one and done, he would probably tell you that he would rather have the guy stay for 2 years. It would be in his best interest to have the guy stay 2 years. So and he would be for it. I'm not speaking for him, but I think he would say that as well.
I was also wondering, you see LeBron last night going for 61. Do you go back to your NBA career? Was there a night when you watched somebody put on a performance where you went, you know what, I'm a spectator here watching this?
Yeah, I was UB's assistant with the New York Knicks, and I watched Bernard King go on that Texas tear, and I watched him that season, and he was incredible, unstoppable machine. And then, of course, I was coaching early on with Jordan and Barkley and watching Magic and all those guys, and they put on incredible performances night in and night out. It was just incredible just to sit on an NBA bench and watch and compete against those guys.
Did Jordan ever talk trash to you?
Not to me personally, but he talked to our players, certainly.
What about Bird?
You just never got upset. I remember you be telling me one time, Bernard, he said something to our bench, and I said, why don't you guard Bernard? And you said, don't get him upset. Don't say anything to him. I never forget you said, be quiet. Don't get him upset.
But you have these guys, like Jordan was always looking for something to get him motivated, no matter what it was, even if he created something. But when you're trying to coach against those, who was the guy you had the hardest time coaching against?
Without question, Michael Jordan. We got upset in the first round. We were in first place that year, and we when the Piston Bad Boys won it, we were 4-0 against them that year. And going in, we got upset in the opening game when we had home court advantage, and going into the sixth game with like under 12 seconds to go on the clock, we had to stop. I told the guys, I don't care if Scotty beats us. I don't care if anybody beats us. Michael will not beat us. I took the guy off the ball on the sideline of bounds, and I said, we are going to sandwich him. He's not getting the ball in bounds. He's not beating us. Let somebody else beat us. Trap him. Stop him from getting the ball. Well, sure enough, we sandwiched him. He held one guy off. They threw it up in the air. He ripped it and made the shot. And there was my strategy, and probably my NBA career was over.
I did want to ask you about decorum on the sidelines. I mean, for Jim Boeheim, after 38 years, to do that, I mean, we've seen Calipari recently, Cronin with Cincinnati. What is going on with coaches now?
Well, it's been and forgetting those guys because I don't want to cast any stones at anybody, but I this has been my pet peeve to the commissioners of the officials every year to go to what the NBA does. The NBA officials pay no attention to the coaches. They're like a disease for them. And if they say something, it's automatic technical, and the technicals stopped when you got a $1,000 fine. You immediately in the NBA. It used to be when I was with the Knicks that the league, the team would pay for it. Then the league commissioner Stern said, no, you have to fork it up yourself. And then technicals just stopped. About 80% of them stopped because the coaches had to pay the $1,000 when they got ejected from a game. So, obviously the officials need to call the technicals, ignore the coaches, because the perception, and forgetting all the other stuff of the coaches being embarrassed for their behavior, forget all of that. What's bad perception is that you're getting an edge at the officials when you're talking and getting in their faces. It looks like that you're affecting the game to get calls your way. And I don't think that's good for the game. So I wish the officials would just ignore the coaches, call the technicals, and just get away from them. Let them do their job, and we do our job.
Good to visit with you as always. Congrats so far, and good luck.
Thanks, Dan. Good visiting with you.